In our mathematical derivation of second-degree price discrimination, we began by assuming that the firm can only use a restricted form of price discrimination, one where it can charge a fixed charge plus a per unit price, but that fixed charge and per unit price has to be the same for all consumers. We then assumed a particular reduced form utility function and derived the demand function given in equation 23.32. And from that we plotted the demand curve in graph 23.7, showing the consumer surplus for an individual of type theta. We then assumed that there are two types of consumers who are different only in their theta value, with theta 1 less than theta 2. The theta 1 type of consumer is then the low demand consumer, and the theta 2 type consumer is the high demand consumer. If we let graph 23.7 represent theta 1's demand, then for any price P, that graph shows the consumer surplus that the theta 1 type will attain at that per unit price. And that consumer surplus in turn is the highest that the fixed fee can be for this consumer to remain in the market given the per unit price P. We can then define expected profit for a monopolist as a function of per unit price. This is done in equation 23.34, where it is assumed that the monopolist will charge the highest possible fixed fee that keeps consumers of theta 1 type in the market, in other words, the consumer surplus that theta 1 type will get under the per unit price P. The equation furthermore assumes that a fraction gamma of the population is of theta 1 type, and a fraction 1 minus gamma is of theta 2 type, and the marginal cost of producing is a constant C. Replacing the consumer surplus term with the consumer surplus equation we derived in 23.33, and replacing the demand terms with the demand function we derived in 23.32, we then get expected profit as a function of price in equation 23.35 for the particular example we're covering. A monopolist who's restricted to charging a single fixed fee and a per unit price to everyone will then maximize this expected profit choosing the per unit price, and solving that problem gives the price P star in equation 23.36. In panel A, we then plot the quantity of X on the horizontal axis and capital P, the total payment that a consumer makes for each quantity of X, on the vertical axis. Given the pricing formula that we've just derived, this total payment will include a fixed component that's equal to the consumer surplus a theta 1 type gets under the per unit price P star. And it will include the per unit price P star that the monopolist has set to maximize profits, given the constraint that the monopolist can only charge a single fixed fee and a single per unit price.